Welcome to the podcast. Here, we dive deep into the fascinating world of crowd management and control, equipping you with the insights and skills to handle any gathering, big or small. In today's episode, we're tackling a crucial skill for any leader or manager, mastering public speaking. Let's get started.
Did you know, according to a survey by the Sunday Times of London, a huge 41% of people list public speaking as their biggest fear?
Wow, 41%. That's more than spiders.
Yeah, more than spiders, small spaces, darkness, you name it. It's a truly universal challenge, isn't it? That moment you stand up there, all eyes on you.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes can feel incredibly high.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack some valuable public speaking skills. We're focusing on, how to develop an engaging program and then deliver your presentation with real power.
And we're pulling out the key nuggets from a public speaking training manual.
Yeah.
Right? Sort of shortcut to getting informed.
Exactly. Hopefully making everyone feel a bit more confident by the end. Okay, so let's unpack this. The manual says the very first step before anything else is preparation. And it starts with you, the audience. Why is that so crucial before you even draft a word?
Well, it's a critical point. Holding attention.
Yeah.
It isn't just what you say. It's about how it communicates best to them.
To the actual people listening.
Precisely. It means speaking to what interests them, what affects them. So the first core principle here is doing what they call a needs analysis. This means asking some key questions.
Like what?
Questions like, where is the audience right now with this problem or this need for change? And then, okay, how do we translate those needs into clear objectives? Objectives that actually lead to a strong learning outcome.
So you're finding out what they need to hear.
Exactly. The goal is address their concerns early on. You definitely don't want to start with like a super long history lesson.
Right, because that often loses them before you've even gotten started.
Totally. You lose them right away.
So it's getting to the heart of what they care about, not just info dumping, but how do you, figure out those needs?
Right. So building on that, you need to create a detailed audience profile.
Okay.
And this breaks down into a few key things. First, think about their education level. Are they familiar with the jargon you might use?
Good point. You might need to explain terms.
Definitely. Tailor your vocabulary. Explain technical stuff. Then consider their existing interest in the topic. And importantly, any misconceptions they might have.
Misconceptions, like things they think they know but are wrong.
Exactly. You need to focus on what matters to them and maybe gently correct any incorrect ideas they might be holding on to.
That makes perfect sense. You wouldn't talk quantum physics to beginners the same way you'd talk to, actual physicists.
Precisely. And critically, think about their attitude. Are they likely to be hostile, supportive, just curious, maybe worried?
How does that change things?
Well, their attitude directly affects the tone you should take, how you frame your message. The source also talks about 3 registers of language. R1 is formal, like a legal document.
Okay.
R2 is, everyday conversation, like what we're doing now. And R3 is more slangy for close friends. Choosing the right one is really fundamental.
So it's not just the facts, it's the whole delivery style, the word choice, all tailored. That's subtle, but powerful.
Absolutely. And finally, you should try to predict the key questions and concerns they might have.
Predict them.
Yeah. The advice is to anticipate these so you can actually address them within your speech. It shows you've thought it through,
Rather than waiting for the Q&A and getting caught off guard.
That makes you look way more prepared.
Exactly. The manual suggests maybe listing the top 5 toughest questions you expect. There's a great case study about this, Brian and Frank. Frank had this complex project, skeptical audience.
Okay.
So instead of drowning them in data, he did a needs analysis. He asked himself, what are their top 3 concerns right now? And he built his whole intro around just those 3 things.
And did it work?
You could almost see them lean in. He wasn't just telling them stuff. He was speaking directly to their worries. It completely changed how they received it. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. So we've hammered home understanding the audience. That's the foundation. But once you know who you're talking to, how do you even start structuring the what's, organizing all that info so it's like coherent and compelling?
Right. Well, connecting this to the bigger picture, a really well-organized presentation doesn't just help the audience understand. It actually makes you, the speaker, seem incredibly knowledgeable, prepared.
Okay, so structure helps the speaker too.
Definitely. Think of it like building a body. You start with the skeleton, right? That's your basic outline. the bare bones structure.
The framework.
Exactly. Then you add the meat to the bones, you layer on the details, the evidence, everything else. It just ensures you have that solid framework first.
I like that visual. Skeleton first, then flesh it out. So what are the essential bones we need for this skeleton?
Okay, so when you're outlining the situation, the problem or the opportunity, the key is get to the point immediately.
No long wind-ups.
No. Avoid excessive history. Just give the necessary background. And, if you can, reference things the audience already knows. It keeps their attention.
Makes sense.
And a key nugget here, the introduction itself should be brief, informative, introduce you, projecting confidence, and just give a quick overview of what you'll cover.
So they know where you're going. Prevents them wondering, when's he getting to the point?
Exactly. Stops that impatience.
That seems simple, but I've seen so many speakers lose people right there in the first minute just by getting bogged down. What's the biggest mistake people make there? Thinking they're being thorough, but actually pushing people away.
Oh, the biggest mistake is probably assuming the audience needs or wants the entire backstory. Often, they just need enough context to understand the current situation and why it matters now.
So less history, more why this matters today.
Precisely. Focus on the immediate problem,
Yeah.
then identify the task, what was actually done. This becomes your organizing principle. And the advice is, describe it like you're talking to a teenager. Clear, simple, assume basic understanding. Just provide essential details. Don't drown them. Just like, when film reviewers complain about too much exposition. Same idea.
Right, keep it moving.
Then, when you list the actions, how it was done, it's a really good idea to put these on slides or a flip chart.
Why is that?
Because people just struggle to remember more than, say, 3 or 4 items if they only hear them. Seeing the list helps avoid confusion, lets them track where you are.
It manages their expectations too, like a roadmap for their brains.
Exactly, a roadmap.
Okay.
Finally, revealing the results. Focus on 3 key questions here.
Okay, what are they?
1, did the project achieve its goal? Think about success, failure, schedule, outside help, all that.
Got it.
2, were there any unexpected consequences, good or bad? And how were they handled?
Important to cover the surprises.
Yes. And 3, what's next? Is there follow-up work? What's the next plan? This covers the outcomes clearly.
Okay, that makes sense. Goal, surprises, next steps.
There's another case study, Marco and Linda. Linda had this dense financial report. Her first draft had a 15-minute historical overview.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Team feedback was, people were tuning out early. So she cut that right down, focused only on the current situation and the task.
Yeah.
Engagement just shot up.
Wow. Shows that less history really can mean more impact.
Absolutely.
So, okay, you've got your content, your outline, you're focused on the audience, the core problem. Now, how do you make sure it all flows beautifully, keeps them hooked from start to finish?
Right. This raises an important question. Organization is fundamentally for the audience's benefit. You have to structure it so it makes sense to them, guides them easily.
Makes sense. So how do we make it easy? What are the basic parts?
Okay, the basic parts. First, the opening. A joke can work, but don't rely on it. Maybe a rhetorical question, a surprising stab. A quick, relevant story, often much better.
Okay, options beyond jokes.
Then, the body, obviously, that's your main content. And crucially, don't skip the review section at the end.
The review, people skip that.
Many do, but it's vital. Just quickly restate your key points for anyone who maybe zoned out for a minute or just needs that reinforcement.
So a quick reinforcement. Yeah, not a total rehash. I can see how that's a common pitfall.
Yes, concise, reinforce it. And finally, the closing. Restate your main point one last time. And maybe, if it fits, include a clear call to action. What do you want him to do or think next?
Okay, opening, body, review, closing with the call to action. Got it. What about methods for organizing the body itself?
Well, the most important thing to realize is that most people only remember a few key points. Don't overwhelm them with facts.
Right. Keep it focused.
And the nugget here is the rule of 3. It's powerful. Concentrating your discussion around 3, maybe 5 max main headings helps people retain it. It's like our brains just subconsciously latch onto that structure.
That's fascinating, the rule of 3 again. It pops up everywhere, doesn't it? Storytelling, comedy, presentations.
It really does seem hardwired. And this leads naturally to classifying and categorizing your info. Well, breaking down complex topics into digestible categories makes them easier to process, like talking about health insurance using cost, coverage, and choice.
Okay. Chunks it up.
Exactly. It helps specialists focus on their bit while still getting the overview, and it gives everyone else mental breathing room to absorb it. There was that case study, Danielle and Catherine. Danielle's slides were just packed, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Catherine suggested using the rule of 3. Group the data under 3 main themes. Suddenly the slides were clearer, more digestible, way more impactful.
Simple change. Big difference. Okay. So structure's there. Now, how do we flesh it out? Give it substance that resonates, builds trust. Because, I mean, in this world of information overload, credibility feels more vital than ever.
That's a critical point. Audiences are often skeptical, right? Especially with maybe controversial topics. You build that credibility not just by what you say, but by backing it up. Reliable sources, strong citations.
Evidence matters.
Hugely. So identifying appropriate sources, stress reliability, and balance. Here's a useful nugget. Wikipedia is great as a starting point for understanding, but always go to its cited sources.
Ah, the ones in the brackets and references.
Exactly. Check those original sources for legitimacy. That's where you find the real backup for your facts. And it's smart to compare data from several sources, look at opposing views too, check for bias.
So you have to be a bit of a detective yourself. Don't just grab the first thing you find.
Exactly right. Be your own detective. Now, for establishing credibility yourself, the absolute core principle is be sure of your facts.
One mistake can sink you.
It really can. One factual error, even a small one, can undermine everything. And, appear businesslike, tidily dressed, have command of your material. Using flashcards is fine. Encouraged, even. Just don't read from them constantly.
Maintain that connection.
Right. And if you're challenging opinions, use sound reasoning, facts, figures from those reliable sources, not just, your own counter opinion.
Makes sense. Show your work.
And the importance of citations. It really can't be overstated. Citing trusted authorities like the CDC, the Congressional Budget Office, Census Bureau, maybe the Journal of the American Medical Association, depending on your topic.
Big names lend weight.
They absolutely can. It can be the deciding factor in getting agreement, building that trust. And please, avoid those rhetorical tricks like, everybody knows that, when you don't have proof.
Because often everybody doesn't know.
Exactly. And it just tanks your credibility. There was that Jordan Stevie case study. They were presenting on local economics, initially just used general stats.
Yeah.
Supervisor challenged them. They realized they needed to dig deeper, find the original government report cited by Wikipedia. Once they integrated those direct citations, bam, presentation had way more legitimacy, more authority.
Okay, solid advice. So you've got the ideas, the evidence, the structure. How do you actually translate that into a dynamic, deliverable speech? And what about, all the practical stuff? Showtime, logistics.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, writing the presentation, and that crucial preparation phase, that's what brings it all to life. Turns research into an actual experience.
Okay, so writing it, what's the key there?
The absolute core advice, please don't read it word for word.
Oh, definitely not. So boring.
It's boring, it creates a barrier, kills spontaneity. Speak from notes that lets you keep eye contact, build rapport.
Good.
And here's a great nugget. Memorize just the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Just the start. Why?
It helps you nail the beginning, gain confidence, get warmed up. Then the rest tends to flow more naturally. It's a real confidence booster right when you need it most.
That's a brilliant pip. A strong launch pad for shaking off those initial nerves.
It really is. Next, you need a plan B. Because, let's be honest, unexpected problems are almost inevitable. Tech glitches, interruptions.
Something always goes wrong, doesn't it?
Pretty much. The key skill is handling it with humor, if possible. Projector dies. Trip over cable. Make a lighthearted joke. It builds rapport. Puts everyone at ease.
Turns awkwardness into connection.
Exactly. And here's a fun nugget. You can even try to turn unforeseen problems into part of your plan B. Use them as a jumping off point. Like, imagine the power cuts out during your energy efficiency speech.
Perfect, if slightly ironic, illustration.
Right. You roll with it. Then, reviewing, editing, rewriting. So crucial, but often rushed.
People want to be done after the first draft.
Understandable. But few first drafts are perfect. Use that first draft to just get ideas down. Subsequent drafts are for flow, coherence, meticulously checking facts and figures. Don't make the first draft sound like a dry research paper.
Okay, so refine, refine, refine. What should you check for?
The manual has a good checklist. Content and organization, does it flow logically? Are opinions backed up? Language, is it clear? No jargon. Right vocabulary for this audience. And length, is the timing right for each part?
Good checklist. It's like sculpting the speech into its final form. But what about actually being prepared on the day? Beyond the content.
Yes, being prepared. It does several things. Boosts your confidence, massively reduces the chance of problems, creates that immediate impression of competence.
Makes you look professional.
Totally.
Yeah.
And leads to a much more polished presentation overall. You know the saying, those who fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Classic, but true.
And this includes checking out the venue beforehand, if you possibly can.
What should you look for?
Vital checks. Seating, can everyone see? Sight lines, projectors, screens, mics, do they work? Do you have the right cables, extension cords? Lighting? Is there a podium, space for your notes, handouts? You know, where are the restrooms? Emergency exit.
Oh, covering all the bases.
It pays off. And definitely do a dry run in the actual space if possible. A rehearsal there can reveal so much.
Leave no stone unturned. It really must cut down on anxiety just knowing those details are handled.
Precisely. And gathering materials, especially handouts. Think about those.
Handouts, are they always necessary?
They can be really useful. They help people take notes, they reinforce your main points, and honestly, people like getting something tangible to take away to own.
True, like a souvenir.
Exactly. And here's a nugget. Condense your key points into excellent handouts. Make them valuable. That way, listeners can actually focus on you during the talk, knowing they have the key info to review later.
Smart. Lets them listen more actively.
Right. Finally, there's the 24-hour checklist. Just a final sweep before showtime.
What's on that?
It covers your presentation opening, points, closing, Q&A answers ready, slides and handouts proofread, enough copies, logistics venue confirmed, equipment working, got your contact person's details.
A final sanity check.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
The Steve and Cindy case study highlighted this. Steve was always last minute, super stressed. Cindy pushed him to use this checklist for a big client pitch. Big difference. Reduced his anxiety massively. He walked in feeling genuinely prepared and nailed the presentation.
Preparation pays off. Okay, but it's one thing to be prepared logistically. What about those jitters? The nerves? How do you manage that natural anxiety? Even pros feel it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating here is it's actually okay to be nervous. It can even be a good thing if you channel it right.
A good thing. How?
Well, that nervous energy can translate into enthusiasm, showing you care. You channel it by forcing yourself to speak clearly, making deliberate eye contact with people in the audience, not staring, but connecting.
Okay, harness the energy.
Right. The nugget here is avoiding extremes. You don't want to be so relaxed you seem bored, but you also don't want to be so nervous you seem incompetent. Finding that balance is key.
So a little nervous energy signals you're engaged, ready. It's about using it.
Exactly. And you know, sometimes even a well-meaning visit from the boss right before you start with their encouragement can actually ramp up the pressure.
Huh. Yeah, don't mess this up. Thanks, boss.
Right. The manual suggests having some positive responses ready. Maybe assuring them you've anticipated objections. You're prepared. Maintain that confident outlook.
Good tactic. What about mental prep?
Think like an athlete before a big game. Positive self-talk. Remind yourself of past successes, how much preparation you've done.
Focus on the positive, the prep.
Yes. And here's a nugget. Anticipation is often the worst part, emotionally. The nerves usually fade quite a bit once you actually start speaking. So accept them, then shift your focus entirely to your delivery, your message.
Okay, accept the nerves. Don't fight them too hard. Mind over matter. Plus maybe some practical stuff.
Yes, exactly. Physical relaxation techniques can really help right before. Deep breathing is simple but effective. Focus on long, slow breaths, in and out through the nose. Feel your abdomen expand.
Calms the system.
It does. And progressive relaxation, consciously tensing, then relaxing different muscle groups like your shoulders, your hands, takes just a minute or two. There's a case study about Peter doing deep breathing for 5 minutes before a high-stakes presentation.
Did it work?
His colleagues noticed a huge difference. Much less visible anxiety, much smoother, more confident delivery.
Worth trying. How about appearing confident, even if you're still a bit shaky inside?
Well, just being personally organized, having your notes tidy, the space clear that helps your own confidence and how the audience sees you, and that old nugget about picturing the audience in their underwear.
Yeah. Does that work?
Honestly, it's more of a joke. Better advice. Smile genuinely. Make real eye contact. Engage with them. That actually makes you feel more supported and connected.
Makes sense. Connect, don't objectify.
Right. And just be aware of your surroundings. If you bump into the podium or something minor happens, handle it gracefully. A light touch, maybe a brief humorous acknowledgement, then move on.
Okay, roll with the small stuff. All right, the moment of truth. You're up there, ready to go. All the prep leads to this. How do you make sure the delivery itself is polished, professional, keeps that connection strong?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, delivery isn't just reciting words. It's about connecting, adapting, really performing in real time to make your content land.
So starting off,
Mm.
how do you nail that beginning?
Starting off right is absolutely paramount. Your opening needs to do two things. Grab their attention immediately and clearly introduce your subject.
Okay, grab and introduce.
And the golden rule, keep it brief, like
Yeah.
1 to 2 minutes, tops.
Mm.
If you lose them in those first couple of minutes, it is so hard to get them back.
High stakes right at the start.
Totally. And here's a nugget for openings. Consider starting with a bold statement, maybe something slightly controversial, where you state an opinion and then say, and here's how I'm going to back that up.
Ooh, intriguing. Piques curiosity.
Exactly. And it's often really helpful to write that powerful opening after you've written the rest of the speech.
Why after?
So it perfectly aligns with your core message, your main takeaways.
Yeah.
There was that case study about Russell speaking to a parent-teacher group. Instead of boring stats, he started by asking, what is the most embarrassing thing your kids have ever said out loud?
Huh. Brilliant. Every parent relates.
Instantly. Had every single parent hooked, leaning in, ready to hear what he had to say next. It created that immediate shared experience.
Powerful way to hook them right away. What about visual aids?
Okay, visual aids, well, they're great. They clarify data, highlight ideas, help people remember, signal transitions.
Yeah.
They can even shorten meetings and make you more persuasive.
Lots of benefits. Any pitfalls?
The main pitfall is using generic, boring ones or ones that are too cluttered.
Yeah.
Here's a nugget. Don't just copy standard templates. Think about unique, maybe even interactive visuals after you've written your presentation. Make sure they genuinely support your message and make it memorable, not just decorate the screen.
Custom visuals for custom messages. Makes sense. What about voice? Volume control.
Critical. You have to adjust to the room size, the number of people, and don't be afraid to ask. Can everyone hear me okay at the back?
Good idea. Check in.
Yeah. Avoid being too quiet, that signals nerves, lack of command. But also avoid being too loud, shouting, that sounds brash, distorts your voice. And be mindful if you move around.
Yeah.
Don't turn your back to the audience while speaking. And always test the microphone beforehand if you're using one.
Mic check 1, 2.
Okay, so what happens if, you're mid-speech and you just sense the energy dipping, the audience seems to be drifting? How do you pull them back? And then how do you really stick the landing for a memorable finish?
Yeah, this raises an important point. Adaptability during the presentation is such a key skill. You have to be sensitive to the room's energy.
Read the room.
Exactly. So if you sense them losing interest, there are techniques you can use on the fly. Try asking them questions directly.
Get them involved.
Right. Or maybe a quick audience demonstration, an informal poll. Hands up if you've ever experienced X. Even a brief, interesting digression or a short, relevant anecdote can work.
Change the pace. Precisely. Offers a change of pace, re-engages them. And here's a nugget. Involving the audience, even with a bit of light, self-mocking humor if something minor goes wrong, can really get a presentation back on track if you feel their attention wandering.
So don't just plow ahead regardless. Respond, connect. That takes real presence of mind.
It does. You also need to gauge if breaks are needed. For talks under an hour, usually not. But longer ones, say an hour and a half plus, a short break can be really beneficial.
Let people recharge.
Exactly. But critical point, always specify the exact return time. Okay, let's take 10 minutes. Please be back by 10:45 sharp. And stress why it's important so people don't just drift off.
Got it. Keep it tight. Can you use the break time too?
Absolutely.
Huh.
It's a great chance to gauge reception, chat informally with few people, see what questions are brewing, pick up on any confusion or strong reactions.
Smart. Okay, wrapping up, how do you avoid just trailing off?
Good question. Definitely don't end your entire presentation on the answer to a Q&A question, especially if it was slightly off topic or maybe a bit deflating.
All right, end on your note.
Exactly. Here's the nugget for a truly memorable close. After the very last question, pause and say something like, okay, that looks like all we have time for. If there is just one thing I hope you will remember from this presentation today, it's Gawker. And then powerfully restate your single most important core message or call to action.
Boom. Leaves them with the key takeaway.
Precisely. Then thank the audience sincerely and maybe offer follow-up contact info. Christina, in that architecture presentation case study, she did this perfectly. After a long Q&A, she didn't just stop. She concluded by circling right back to her core message about sustainable design for community spaces, left everyone with a clear, inspiring final thought, not just the answer to a question about building codes.
Powerful finish. Okay, last hurdle, the Q&A. This feels like where you can really solidify things or maybe accidentally undo some good work. How do you handle that final crucial interaction?
Yeah, it's critical. And a point to grasp here is that Thoughtful, respectful, clear answers really build that final layer of rapport. It leaves a lasting positive impression.
Okay, so what are the ground rules for Q&A?
Well, first, if you ask for questions, and crickets, silence. Don't panic. Wait a good 20 seconds or so, comfortably.
Let them think.
Right. If still nothing, then ask your own easy question. Something like, well, one question people often ask about this is, it breaks the ice, shows them the kind of questions you expect.
Nice trick.
Yeah.
What about timing? Questions during or after?
Good question. For longer presentations, say over an hour, allowing questions at regular intervals, maybe after each main section, can work well, keeps engagement up. But for shorter talks, under an hour. Holding all questions until the end usually maintains better flow and focus.
Okay, depends on the length. Now, what about those tough questions, the ones that sound like an attack or a real challenge?
Oh, yes. The key strategy here is do not get confrontational. Don't bite back.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True. But here's the nugget. Affirm the person first. Say something like, that's an interesting point, or I appreciate you raising that concern. Find something you can agree on, even if it's just acknowledging the importance of the underlying issue.
Find common ground.
Yes. Before you state your disagreement. And do it non-confrontationally. Maybe. I think we probably agree on the importance of X, but my data suggests a different perspective when it comes to Y. Always maintain professionalism. Theo, in that case, study with the aggressive budget question.
Yeah. How did he handle it?
He didn't get defensive. He calmly affirmed the questioner's concern about finances, agreed on the need for fiscal responsibility, then professionally explained how his proposal actually saved money long term. Totally diffused the tension.
Smooth. Diffuse. Stay calm. Find common ground first. Got it.
Absolutely. And for any complex question, whether it's challenging or just complicated, first, listen really attentively. Make eye contact. Don't interrupt. If it's long-winded, maybe paraphrase it back. So if I understand correctly, you're asking...
Confirm understanding.
Exactly. Second, analyze. What's the real question here? What's the questioner's intent clarification? A genuine challenge. Look for clues in their tone, body language.
Okay, listen. Analyze.
Third, affirm them again. Make eye contact. Say, that's an excellent question, or I'm glad you brought that up. Makes them feel heard.
Affirm. Then answer.
Then answer directly. Don't duck it. Don't be vague. And crucially, if you genuinely don't know the answer, say so honestly. That's a great question. I don't have that specific data point right now, but I'd be happy to find out and get back to you. Then make sure you get their contact info and actually follow up.
Honesty is better than bluffing.
Way better. Builds much more trust than a fumbled, obviously insincere response.
Wow. Okay. We have covered a ton in this deep dive. Seriously, from why understanding your audience is just job number one,
Absolutely fundamental.
to crafting that message, organizing it with things like the rule of three, building credibility with solid evidence,
Getting those sources right.
then mastering your mindset, dealing with nerves, actually delivering with presence, handling problems on the fly,
Adapting in the moment.
and finally, navigating that crucial Q&A. It's really clear that mastering public speaking isn't just about getting over a fear. It feels more like it's about refining your ideas, boosting your influence, genuinely empowering yourself.
That's a critical point to grasp. Public speaking isn't just sharing information. It's really this conscious effort to elevate your ideas, elevate yourself, and elevate your influence, whatever the setting. And, well, this raises an important question for you, our listener.
Okay.
What single new approach, or maybe technique, from everything we've talked about today,
Right.
what one thing will you commit to practicing first to transform not just your next speech, perhaps, but maybe even just your comfort with the whole act of standing up and making sure you're heard?
That's a great question to leave people with, a call to action. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. We really hope you'll continue your journey in improving your public speaking skills, one step, one presentation at a time.
And that brings us to the end of another insightful episode. We hope you gained valuable tips on mastering public speaking. If you found this discussion helpful, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us bring you more great content on crowd management. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.